This is my second video update coming to you from downtown Nicosia, Cyprus. And we've got a lot of news stories to get to. So let's go for a walk. Let's go for a walk. And we'll talk about these news stories. And in my video this morning, I think I said that the Ukraine ambassador in Germany had called Olaf Scholz a sultry liver sausage. Obviously, I misspoke. I meant to say sulky liver sausage. Though you have to admit, it would be funny and kind of disturbing if the Ukraine ambassador to Germany had indeed described the German chancellor as a sultry liver sausage. But he actually used the word sulky, a sulky liver sausage. And so that's what the Ukraine ambassador to Germany called Olaf Scholz. And while we're on the subject of misspeaking, there was some fake news the other day with regards to the Admiral Makarov, which was this Russian frigate, which was in the Black Sea. And there was some news coming out that Ukraine had taken out the Makarov. But the interesting part about the video that we saw with regards to this Russian ship being taken out by Ukraine Neptune, I believe Neptune missiles, was that the videos were, from what I understand, part of a video game, which would not be the first time we've seen the Ukraine Ministry of Truth use video games to push out propaganda. And on a lot of the tweets that they put out with regards to the sinking of the alleged sinking of this Russian ship, the date was 1 day ahead. So it was the 6th of May, but the images actually had a date attached to them saying the 7th of May. So the manipulation was a bit off. And needless to say, the Makarov is in Sevastopol. There have been images and video of that car just ran right over the median over there. I don't know if you guys saw that. But anyway, Cyprus drivers. The ship is in Sevastopol now, and it was fake news. So the sinking of the Makarov is fake news, and it was a really, really poor job of misinformation from the Ukraine side of things. Speaking about misinformation and sinking of ships, we have the Pentagon coming out with statements where they are denying any involvement in anything to do with the Moskva. So the Pentagon, the other day, they denied any involvement in helping Ukraine launch attacks against Russia. The Pentagon said they do not give positions of generals out or anything like that, of Russian generals or anything like that. And now you have the Pentagon pushing back on claims from specifically from NBC News, claims that they helped Ukraine military sink the Moskva. And we don't know what happened to the Moskva. So we start from that point that no one really knows what happened to the Moskva. If it was hit by Ukraine, if it was sabotage, if it was a mistake by the crew or something else, no one really knows. We'll find out maybe in a year or two, but the only people that know what really happened to the Moskva are the people on the Moskva and the Kremlin, the Russian military. But it's interesting to see the Pentagon starting to push back on a lot of this fake news. And the way I look at it is like this. I see the CIA working their fake news disinformation campaigns. And a lot of these disinformation campaigns, while they have the blessing of the Biden White House, they can cause some problems for the Pentagon. What do I mean? Well, Jacob Dreisen actually made an interesting point the other day when he was talking about the whole generals thing and how there's news that Russian generals have been taken out by the Ukraine military, because Jacob pointed out that you have a command center in Lviv, and God knows how many NATO, US, UK generals could be in Lviv at this command center. And everyone knows that the Russians know exactly where this command center is located. And if the Russians really wanted to take out this command center, well, they could do it pretty much at the snap of a finger, but they don't. Even though this command center is running the entire war, they're coordinating the whole war going on in Ukraine. The Russians don't take out all of these NATO, US, UK top brass, and they don't do it because you just don't do that type of thing. You don't go after the generals, and that's on both sides. And so I think that the US, the Pentagon, specifically the Pentagon, is getting nervous because they're starting to say, you know what, CIA, your little disinformation campaigns, which are meant to sow doubt and mistrust in Russia and around the Kremlin, well, it's going to get our generals killed. Because sooner or later, the Russians might say, well, since the US is helping Ukraine supposedly take out generals, because I don't buy that story either. Once again, we saw the story about Gerasimov, the Russian general who was supposedly injured when he was visiting Ukraine, and the next day he was sitting next to Shoigu at a press briefing. But, you know, the Russians may use the CIA Ukraine disinformation campaign to their advantage and say, well, you know, you guys are actively taking out our generals, or at least that's what you're saying. So, you know, we can take out your generals as well, tit for tat. And so I think the Pentagon is getting nervous, and they're starting to say, you know what, the CIA and the Ukraine disinformation campaign that they've got going on, we need to push back on it a bit, because we're putting our guys who are sitting in Lviv, we are putting them in danger. So that's the update there. We have some more explosions in Transnistria. Specifically, I believe a drone attack or something took place in Transnistria just today. That's alarming, because Ukraine is continuing to try and open up a second front in Transnistria, and that could be a weak part of the Russian military presence in the region. In other words, Transnistria may be quite difficult for them to deal with. But we know that Ukraine is very, very keen on getting that front opened up in Transnistria. And I'm sure that NATO would also like to see another front open up. They're trying to get Georgia involved. Ukraine is trying to get Georgia to open up a front against Russia, but Georgia is pushing back, and they're saying, no way, we don't want any part of this, and we're not even going to sanction Russia. We are going to remain neutral. Very smart play from Georgia, but Ukraine's pissed off at Georgia because they want Georgia to start causing some trouble for Russia as well, but Georgia knows better. So a very smart move from Georgia. Very interesting that we see Ukraine continuing to try and provoke something in Transnistria to try and get that front open up. That is alarming. We do have the president of Poland, who, in a speech the other day, now that we have a lot of holidays and a lot of events marking World War II, we had the president of Poland, Mr. Andrzej Duda, come out and say this, and I need to pull out the quote here. Give me one sec. Mr. Andrzej Duda, the Polish president, said that he hopes Ukraine and Poland will live together on this land and build common happiness. That is exactly what Andrzej Duda said about the relationship between Poland and Ukraine. He called the two nations fraternal friends. And he said this: together on this land, building and rebuilding our common happiness and common strength that will allow us to resist every danger. It's a very interesting quote. You know, Zelensky said kind of the same thing a little while back. He said, Zelensky said, effectively, we no longer have a border with Poland, with a friendly Poland. That's what Zelensky said in March. And now we see Duda during these World War II holidays and celebrations coming out and pretty much saying the same exact thing, that there is no border between Ukraine and Poland. So make of it what you want, what you will. It does seem to me that it could be Poland signaling that they want to take back Lviv. Maybe even take back Lviv with Zelensky's blessing. You know, maybe Zelensky is kind of saying, why don't we take this part of rump Ukraine and just kind of work with Poland to become some sort of protectorate. You know, a Ukraine and an independent Ukraine, but under the protection of Poland. And if you're under the protection of Poland, you're kind of de facto under the protection of NATO. That could be a possibility. Zelensky may be saying, you know, this rump Ukraine that's being carved out right now, which is this northwestern Ukraine, that is going to remain when this war finally comes to some sort of conclusion. Well, this could be, yes, an independent and sovereign Ukraine, but it could fall under the protection of Poland, something along those lines. And for that protection, well, Poland gets to have a puppet government in this rump Ukraine, a government that they control, and they get to reintegrate Lviv to a certain extent. You know, you get a reintegration there. Who knows? That could be a possibility. I believe that could be a very, very possible possibility, and I really do think that the collective West is kind of eyeing that sort of arrangement. And they're saying, you know what? Let's get this rump Ukraine integrated with NATO and with Poland, and let's try to prevent Russia from beginning a next phase, a phase 3, with regards to Odessa. And I think that may be the game plan of NATO. They may be saying, you know what? We need to delay Russia as much as we can in the Donbass, so we can iron out what this rump Ukraine is going to be and how Poland is going to govern this puppet rump Ukraine. And we need to prevent Russia from moving westwards on the south coast, so that they don't take Odessa, so that at the very least we can integrate Odessa into this rump Ukraine. That's going to be the big play. That is going to be the big battle. And to me, it makes a lot of sense for the West Ukraine to play it, for the collective West to play it like that with regards to the west of Ukraine and Odessa, because the collective West knows how important Odessa is to Russia. Not only does it serve a strategic importance, without a doubt, when you look at Transnistria, you look at its location, but it serves a very deep historical and cultural importance to Russia. And I think the collective West would like nothing more than to delay the Russians in the Donbass, open up a front in Transnistria, get everything ready so that they can defend Odessa when the Russians are ready to move west, southwest, and prevent Russia from taking Odessa, because it would really stick it to Putin, not being able to get Odessa. That would really hurt in a big, big way. So that may be the plan. something like that may be forming. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. With regards to Kharkiv, since I'm talking about the comments down below, I believe that you guys are calling Kharkiv perfectly spot on. A lot of people said that yes, it may have been some sort of retreat. Just pressing the button so I can cross. Some sort of retreat in Kharkiv, but it's done more as some sort of it could be done. What could be going on in Kharkiv could be some sort of probing activity from the Russians. In other words, they're going in, they're probing, and then they're moving back. It's very much the way the Russians are waging war, in that they don't need to occupy and control land, especially of empty villages. So they go in there, they see what's going on, they cede the land, they wait to draw the Ukrainians out of their bunkers, and then they can attack. It could be something like that, or it could be something along the lines of what Brian at the New Atlas described, which is an activity meant to pin down the Ukraine military in Kharkiv, so that they don't move resources to where the real fighting is going on, the meaningful fighting is going on, and that is in the Donbass. So it could be something along those lines. Either way, I think from my first video, my morning video, where I did talk about Kharkiv and what's going on there, and how the Russians have pulled back from these empty villages and the Ukraine military is moving in. I believe that the analysis from the comments below, as well as what the New Atlas, their channel, also outlined with regards to Kharkiv, is pretty much spot on. So what else should we talk about now that we've got a lot of the stuff on the ground in Ukraine out of the way? Let's discuss, what else should we discuss here? I do have a good clown world as well, an interesting clown world. Let me follow up on India too, now that I remember. We're getting reports that the Russians are selling a ton of oil to India, like Urals crude, like a ton of oil. They're pushing to India. So no matter how hard the collective West tried to move India away from Russia and to get India to embargo or sanction or do something against Russia, we are getting reports now that the Russians are just sending all kinds of oil to India. India is just buying it up. Russia's state-run oil giant Rosneft has reportedly sold a large shipment of crude to India as the South Asian nation keeps boosting energy imports from the sanctions-hit country. Indian Oil Corp, IOC, the country's top refiner, purchased 700,000 tons of Russian Urals crude. Two traders familiar with the matter told Reuters, adding that Rosneft had allocated 7 cargoes loading from the Baltic ports of Primorsk and Ust-Luga between May 15th and the 31st to India. So it looks like the collective West's efforts to drive a wedge between India and Russia is just not working. You know, Russia's not going to have a hard time selling this oil. I think I actually said this in a video. I was talking about a Chris Rock comedy skit where Chris Rock was talking about crack dealers. And he was saying that, you know, drug dealers and crack dealers, they never sit around in their room and say, look at all this crack. Who am I going to sell all this crack to? Because you always have buyers for drugs. And Chris Rock says, during that skit, Chris Rock said, you don't need to sell drugs. Drugs sell themselves. I mean, it's the same thing with oil. You don't really need to sell oil. Oil will sell itself. So no matter how hard the collective West tries to prevent Russia from getting their oil out to the market, sanctioning insurers and doing all of these things and trying to pressure India to not buy the Russian oil, the oil will be sold because oil and energy sells itself. The U.S. is also, outside of India, the U.S. is also trying to pressure the UN to remove Russia from the Security Council. And the U.S. ambassador to the Security Council actually gave an interview to, I believe it was to PBS. Let me check real quick. Yes, to PBS. Linda Thomas Greenfield. She gave an interview to PBS and she said that the US is going to continue to try and isolate Russia. That's their number one main goal. But she admitted that getting Russia out of the Security Council, getting rid of their permanent seat, is something that's going to be impossible. She said this: the Russians have the permanent seat, and I don't see at the moment that there will be any changes in that. But we will continue in our efforts to isolate them. Telling you, the collective West, they are throwing everything they've got at Russia. I mean, everything they've got at Russia. And I always ask myself this question: is the Kremlin aware of the vitriol and the hate that the collective West has for Russia and for the Russian people and for the Russian state? I mean, I'm sure they do. And this is kind of a stupid question that I kind of run through my head. But I just always read these types of articles. You know, for instance, this interview with the UN, the US ambassador to the UN, and I just ask myself, I wonder if the Kremlin is aware of how much hate the collective West has for Russia and how hard they're trying to destroy the country. It really is astonishing to see all of this happen. Take, for example, Abramovich and Chelsea. There's news now that a consortium of American businessmen and the UK guy, like a UK real estate developer, and an American, like a hedge fund guy or something like that. I forgot the guy's name. Bowley. This guy's name is Bowley. I believe Thomas Bowley or something along those lines. Anyway, this guy and his little consortium, they are buying Chelsea, the football club, because the football club got confiscated by the UK government. Theft, outright theft. The UK government decided to steal the football club from Abramovich because Abramovich is Russian. That's simple. He doesn't really have deep ties to Putin or anything like that, but they said, you know what, you're Russian, you're wealthy, you're in the UK, you own Chelsea, we're going to take it away from you. And that's what they did. And they're buying the club for something like $4 billion, and like $2 billion of that $4 billion is going to go to a frozen account. And that frozen account then will have that 2.5 billion, will have that 2.5 billion given to quote unquote charity. I wonder which charities are going to get their hands on this 2.5 billion. And of course, Chelsea has now gone to this consortium of hedge fund guys and venture capital guys and real estate developers from the US and from the UK. I'm trying to find the guy's name. I'm trying to search for the dude's name. I think it's Bowley. Let me just check real quick. Yeah, one of the guys in the group that's buying Chelsea, also Mark Walter. He also has a stake in the Los Angeles Dodgers, the baseball team. Clear Lake Capital is involved, a Swiss billionaire. Hans-Jörg Weiss is involved, a British property developer. And who else? Todd Bowley. There you go. Todd Bowley is the main guy. He's the front man. So yeah, this is just a case of outright theft. Just because you're Russian, they took away Abramovich's football club. I'm not a fan of Abramovich. I don't even know that much about him, to be quite honest. But now you just don't confiscate the dude's assets just because he's Russian. But boy, did they really make an example of him. Unfortunately, when you go after a billionaire like Abramovich, other billionaires around the world are going to stand up and take notice. And they're going to say, you know what? If they can confiscate Abramovich's assets just like that, just because of his ethnicity, well then, they're going to come after us as well sooner or later. This is just a terrible precedent for the collective West to set. And I'm sure there are a lot of billionaires, a lot of wealthy people all around the world who are moving their money slowly out of the collective West and into places where the collective West thieves can't get their hands on it. I'm sure that's happening. I'm positive that that is happening. 2.5 billion to go into a frozen account in the UK. 2.5 billion USD. Where's it GBP? Let me see. 2.5 billion GBP pounds are going to go into a frozen account in the UK. And then that frozen account will have that money allocated to a charity. A charity is going to be called, what's it going to be called? It's going to be called Klaus Schwab's School for Young WEF Future Leaders. That's what the charity is going to be called. Or the George Soros New Democracy Foundation, Open Society New Democracy Foundation. Thank you very much for this 2.5 billion, Boris Johnson and your robber barons. So that's the news coming out of Chelsea. And let's do a clown world. Let me cross. I just did a little circle here. A little circle around that football field. I don't know if you noticed that I was walking around the football field, but it's a football field of gravel, not of grass. Cyprus has very, very little grass. Very little grass. Usually people play football on gravel here. So let's do a clown world and we'll wrap up this second update. So the clown world, this one will be a quick one, but it's a good one. And the clown world is a story coming out of Germany. Germany is making a lot of clown worlds these days. And the German museum dedicated to World War II and the ending of that conflict in Europe has decided to drop the reference to Russia in its name in response to Moscow's military campaign in Ukraine. The German-Russian Museum of Berlin Karlshorst is housed in the building where Hitler's forces signed Germany's unconditional surrender on the night of May 8 to 9, 1945, ending the war in Europe. The document was signed in the presence of representatives of the Soviet Union, the US, Britain, and France. The museum, dedicated to German-Soviet relations, was first opened to the public in 1995, and it is sponsored by Germany, Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. And now the museum will not be called the German-Russian Museum Berlin Karlshorst. It'll just be called the Museum of Berlin Karlshorst. That's it. It's removing the Russian reference, or the German Museum Berlin Karlshorst. That's it, because of this Ukraine conflict. They even took down the flags of Russia and Belarus and put up the flag of Ukraine. The flag of Ukraine in a World War II museum. Go figure. Very interesting that you have Duda giving a speech commemorating the events of World War II, and then talking about his country, Poland's brotherly, fraternal relationship with Zelensky, the clown, the cokehead clown of Kiev. You have a museum dedicated to World War II, and they're removing Russia from the name of that museum. And you have all of these things happening on the anniversary of the defeat of the NAZIs, and the collective West is openly supporting NAZIs in 2022. History is an interesting thing, isn't it? So anyway, I will leave it there, everybody. That is the video, theduran.locals.com. Take care.